Howdy, folks. Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that talks with tomorrow's hoop stars. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. Today, I am joined by Mookie, my dog, and we're going to, it's getting close to Labor Day, so we're starting our college conference previews. We're starting with the mid-majors, and this episode, though, we're going to have 3 interviews from teams that we will be previewing later in the week, and they are all involved in. We will all discuss these teams in that particular coming up episode, and that is Coach Steve Smiley of Northern Colorado, and Coach Smiley has a knack for producing great players such as Dalton Connect and St. Thomas. Last year, he transferred to USC. Then we have Quion Williams from Abilene Christian. He just transferred in from Oklahoma State. Big, powerful wing. You may have know him from his impressive dunks. And then lastly, we will have Kimani Hamilton of High Point. He started his career at Mississippi State and then moved on to High Point and had an excellent season last year. And High Point is, I would say, one of the small mid-majors that could definitely not only make the NCAA tournament, but do some serious damage, very similar to Grand Canyon last year. So let's get rolling, and we'll start off with Coach Steve Smiley. Our special guest today is Northern Colorado head coach Steve Smiley, who has been in charge of the Bears program since 2020 after serving as the associate head coach for the 4 prior years. During his 8 years at UNC, the Bears have averaged 18 wins per season, including the COVID-shortened season when the team went 11-11. Last season, Coach Smiley was named Big Sky Coach of the Year, leading the team to a 12-6 record in conference, which tied for second place during the regular season. Coach, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. I'm glad we were, able to finally get this going. I know we've talked about it for a while, so I'm excited to hop on the show. And it's interesting hearing all those stats and stuff. Just the that COVID year, 11-11. That was a goofball year, man. It almost brings back bad memories. We only had. Yeah, our entire roster, we only had our entire roster healthy and able to play in a game. That never happened until late February because of all the shutdowns and then also the isolations and all the stuff when kids would get the disease. So we didn't even have a roster until late February. So it brings back some memories, but let's move past that, man. It's just good to be on the show.
Yeah. Every time I talk to a coach, this year, I think of something that happened at the Big East tournament, and that was after Providence. I forget who they beat, but it was like the second day of the tournament, and Kim English is the coach of Providence. The press conference opens up. A woman raises her hand. They call on her, and she says, "Coach, my readers want to know if you are single and available." That's how the press conference started. So I can't
throw an awkward question right away.
Yeah. The whole room, which was packed, Big East tournament in the middle of Manhattan, was packed, and the whole room just burst out laughter. And I'll never forget that. Anytime I talk to a coach now, I'm going to I think of that question. All right. So right. How's your summer going? Have you had time to relax and have some fun?
Yeah. Obviously, as we're doing this, we're middle to almost late August, and the kids, the students are just coming back to campus now. We actually helped move some kids in yesterday. Our team did, and started school on Monday the 26th there. But if you would ask me that question in June or July, I'd say no. I really haven't had a chance to slow down, and we used to have that month of May pretty protected, but with all this new stuff of bring your roster in, and it's not what people don't understand. And it's not just like signing a kid or getting a kid committed. Okay, so you get that done in late April or early May if you're lucky. The problem is then you got to get them admitted. All the hoops you got to go through, housing, admitted, immunizations, academic schedule. So the whole month of May, you're just working and scrambling because we do start basically June 1st And we don't have a lot of flexibility with that time because that's when our camps are built in, and we need our guys because our camps are pretty big and it helps to pay them a little bit too. So yeah, May was brutal, June was brutal, July again, it's what you love to do, but in August I did get a chance to get away a little bit. Little suntan here, was able to sneak away on our first family cruise, and that was cool. And then just a couple of little small things, a little bit of fishing, and hit the golf course a little bit, and try to improve my 28 handicap, and that is true.
What is your handicap?
28. It's terrible, but
Wow.
well, that's good though. You probably as a head coach don't want your handicap too good. I mean, at least I say I can make an excuse and say I just don't have enough time to play. But I'm bad, man. But I do enjoy doing it.
You're too athletic to have a 28 handicap.
Well, I did surge to a 26.3. I did surge to a 26.3. But it's real, man. And we play in this little Tuesday night league out here. It's myself and our wrestling coach, and it's built off your handicap. And he's good, I'm bad, which means it's a good team because I get like 8 pops per hole, which means I might be able to steal 1 or 2 holes just based off of how bad I am. So it's a good dynamic for sure.
Yeah. Golf is to me the most challenging game, or if not challenging, most frustrating game there is out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Any given day could be, every day is different. All right, so it was good you had some fun. We have multiple acquaintances, one of whom actually worked for Hoops Prospects, and that's Clayton Conover, who now works for Prep Hoops in Colorado. But also, I don't know if you know this, but my first ever interview here at Hoops Prospects was with none other than Jonah Radenbaugh. And actually, Jonah and I still talk now and then. And I have to say, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in this business. You stay in touch with Jonah?
I do, and I didn't know it was your first. I knew he was on the show, and it was a while ago. But I do stay in touch with him a lot. He usually comes back up and or pops up for a day during our summertime for workouts, talk to the team, things like that. I'm just so happy for him. He had such a long season because they made it to the ACB finals, right? And they got beat by Real Madrid. But
right.
When I try to equate that and teach, our kids and stuff, like, hey, like Real Madrid, like that's, Luka Doncic, like, for his team to do what they did and stretch that season out. But the downside is like, it's such a long year. He needed some time off too. So, I was super happy for him, and we do stay in touch, and he's the best, man. He does a great job.
Yeah. Mercia, his team, wasn't expected to make the finals. And it was the first time, I believe, in club history that they made the finals. So, I watched, thank goodness there's a station that I get that shows international ball, and I was able to watch a lot of those games. So
awesome.
All right. So now you need to bear with me.
Yeah.
I'm about to go through a list, and this list is going to set up a series of questions. So when I get all done, I want your comments on the list, and then the questions will just kind of naturally filter in.
Okay.
When I first started, I started HP in 2017, and I believe that was 1 year after you came to UNC. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
So our timelines are very close. So 2017-18, Andre Spite, 23 points per game, all Big Sky first team. He's now starring in Argentina. 2018-19, Jordan Davis, 24 points per game, 5 assists per game, Big Sky Player of the Year. He's been playing, he's been a solid performer in the Spanish League, German League, and the Basketball Champions League. 2019-20, when I talked to Jonah, he averaged that season 17 points per game, close to 6 rebounds per game, 7 assists. He was all Big Sky first team and defensive player of the year. Probably should also have been player of the year that season. And of course, we just discussed his history. So then the year after, 2021, Bodie Hume, 16 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, all Big Sky second team. He's been playing very well in Sweden and Germany over the past 2 seasons. Next year, 21-22, guard Dalen Kuntz, 21 points per game, all Big Sky first team. He played last year, Montenegro, and was solid. 22-23, Dalton Connect, 20 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, all Big Sky second team. And of course, he went on to be the following year to be SEC Player of the Year, an All-American, and subsequently the 17th pick in the NBA draft. 23-24, forward St. Thomas, 20 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, 4 assists per game, all Big Sky first team, probably would have been player of the year if it wasn't for Dylan Jones, and he has since transferred to USC. What do you make of that list?
It's a lot of good players, man, and good players make good coaches, right? I mean, it's when you got players like that can get the ball in the hole and they're all different types of players. That's what's cool. Like, the first person you brought up was Andre Spite, and Dre holds the all-time record for most points scored in Big Sky history in a single season.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then number 2, as you mentioned on the list, is Dalen Koontz. Day is number 2, and then Damian Lillard is number 3. So, when Dre broke that record, and then obviously the next year Jordan Davis kind of, he emerges as that primary scorer. Always was a good player, but the guy that was probably the least likely in the scoring world was Jonah, to be honest with you. And we started that year with him off the ball, and I remember we played Texas the first game. We couldn't score, and Coach Linder was just demoralized. He's like, man, we got to figure something out, and he plugged Jonah into that spot. He just did a great job, and so. Yeah, I mean, there's that. What do I make of that list? That's a lot of good players in a lot of different spots, and obviously probably the follow-up is like, well, who's the next guy? And I don't know. I'm saying this year we have multiple players that could be that guy. Time will tell. I think we have a lot of good players. The one crazy thing about that list is how many of those players averaged over 20 a game. That is so hard to do in college. Not to score 20 in a game, but to average 20 points per game with all the game planning and things like that. So that was cool for you to kind of recap that.
Well, the other thing is they all made, all Big Sky, and, most of them were first team all Big Sky. And the one who shocked the heck out of me it didn't make first team was Dalton Connect, and let alone player of the year. So, that was my first question to you was, why the heck, what was going on the year, that year that he doesn't make at least Big Sky first team?
Well, I do think he should have made it. For sure. Now, with that being said, if you look at the list of players, that our league was so abnormally good that year with high-end talent. Just off the top of my head, you got Steele Venters was the player of the year. He was going to be really good at Gonzaga last year. He transferred, but he tore his ACL. So people will see how good Steele Venters is. He was the player of the year. You got Dylan Jones, who's a first-round draft pick. You got Dalton. You got Jabril Bello.
Dalen was on that team with Dalton, I believe.
Yeah, and I think Dalen was like second or third team that year, maybe third team. And then the other thing about it, too, you had Raekwon Battle, who he portaled out to West Virginia, was maybe their best player last year.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see that whole list, but, I mean, it's an unbelievable list. And then the other thing is that was the one down year we had. And so, I think in our league, rightfully so, that coaches look at it and they're going to reward, if it's close, they're going to reward the kids on the teams that win more. And we weren't as good that year. So.
Right. What did you think? We have a strong opinion about this on the show. We've been talking about it all summer. What did you think about Dalton falling to 17th in the draft?
I was shocked just because obviously we get so many calls from NBA teams and, just different personalities that are pretty tapped into things. And it sounded like it was going to be 6, 7, 8, probably not even 10. And I was at a donor function that night. And I had to stay by my phone because the minute he was drafted, not the local news station, but the big one down in Denver, 9 News, wanted to get me on and do a quick Zoom. And so I was prepared to just step away from this event and hop on the phone and put the AirPods in and just do it there. And well, I'm sitting in the lobby and it just 6, 7, 8, 9, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And eventually, my wife, who's also at the event, she's like, "All right, let's go home and do this to my house." I'm like, "All right." So I mean, that's when we were like 13, 14, 15. And so we get in the car and go home. And sure enough, on the ride home, he gets drafted and the news reaches out. I'm like, we can't do it right here. The service is not good. Give me like 10 minutes to get to my house and get to my laptop. But I was surprised. I mean, who knows? I mean, people say because of his age, but I mean, everyone knew what his age was before the draft. And so I don't know. But I do think that the silver lining of what a great opportunity to be there with LeBron and AD and all that kind of stuff. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head about the age thing because I'm thinking, right now, this is the NBA has become, you really can't count on having these kids 5, 6 years from now.
Sure.
You kind of got to look more like maybe no more than maybe like 3, 4 years ahead.
Right.
And so I think there's going to be a half a dozen teams that are going to regret passing on Dalton, my opinion,
Yeah,
because I think he's ready to plug in right now.
I think so too. And I think his maturity level and his ability to score at that professional level it's ready. So I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah. So you've been a bit modest so far, but when you go through this list and you see it happening every year, at least some of the credit has to go to you for these guys to flourish like they did, because a lot of them didn't flourish until they got to UNC. So can you speak to that? What you think, has been your secret, quote unquote.
Yeah.
What's your coaching style? What kind of strengths do you bring to bear to get the best out of these guys?
Well, I think that list, the first thing that's cool is totally different stories. You got some high school kids, you got some junior college transfers, you got some multi-year transfers. So that formula has changed, or it's at least it's grown, that it's not just one set of kids, right? It's D1 transfers, JUCO kids, high school kids, and that's cool. I think that I do think that we're just a part of this, success, because I think there's so many people that go into these kids' success, and to be honest, like every one of those kids, if they didn't love to play, and if they didn't work that hard, they would not have that success. So it's still ultimately on the kids. But I would say one thing, and I got a lot of this from Coach Linder, being lucky enough to be on his staff, is that I think one thing we do a good job of is learning our players' strengths and understanding how to build that particular year's system around what kids do good and what they don't. And it changes every year. The nuts and bolts and the basic structure of what we do is always going to be similar. Then we kind of model our stuff, probably around how about European stuff more than anything else. It's not a lot like college stuff, but it's everyone says pace and space and ball screens, and we do all that stuff. But we're always looking for cutting edges and ways to incorporate stuff that's really hard to guard overseas. 'Cause I think that does translate. But then too, I think if there's one thing is we understand that when it comes down to how do we put these kids in a position to be successful based off of their skill set. Jordan Davis' skill set's way different than Andre Spite's skill set. Dalen Kuntz's skill set way different than Dalton Connect. And everyone wants to kind of compare Dalton and Saint. Those are two totally different players. And they're both really good, but they're just different in what, the spots they like to get to on the court and the type of ball screen. And we get down to the nitty gritty of like, okay, in this action, is it better for you to go to the right or the left? Like, what do you feel? Like, would you rather come off this hand or just things like that? And finding the ways to take all of our million actions that we could do and to cut out all the nonsense and to put them in the 5 to 10 best actions when it really gets down to it. And I think that helps out.
That is interesting. You say that. It also sounds like more difficult than what some coaches do, which I think I'm not a fan of, and I think it's starting to fade away. But that certain coaches have a system. They bring guys in that fit that system, and they look for a certain guy. You don't have that luxury of being able to, you're not a Duke, you're not a Kentucky, so you don't have that luxury. So you have to adjust your system. That takes more creativity, more work. And I think that's the direction I think coaching is kind of going to go, maybe for everybody. I don't know if the system. I'm asking for your thoughts here, but I don't know if the system guys, you gotta play a 2-3 zone, or you gotta play, we're going to play a slow pace, we're going to slow it down, and we're not going to push the ball, and we're just going to shoot threes. There are systems like that out there without naming names. So what do you think? Do you think coaching is heading more your direction?
I do, because of the portal, because our rosters just changed. Like, we retained 7 good players this year, but that meant we had to bring in 9 new guys in the spring, 9. And so I think like even having like a junior college background as a JUCO head coach for 6 years, it feels a lot more like that. But yeah, you can certainly build it around your system. And if you can get the right guys, by all means. But I think for us, we've got to be flexible, and every year knowing we'll have different players that, they're going to have different strengths, and to understand, like, that's where the hard part systematically is understanding all the best trends and areas, put players in that really put the defense in a bind, because you got to kind of know it, but you can't use all of it either, right? Like, you can't use all that stuff. It's so hard to teach all these kids. So it's like, okay, you might know, a certain amount of whatever, but then you got to maybe use 20% of that knowledge, but it's the most important 20% that matters, right? So, and I think too, developmentally, it goes without saying too that I've had a phenomenal staff, and we put a lot of time into player development, all the way through, not just in June and July and in the springtime, but even when we start back up practice, there's so much development going on. And I think one thing that we've gotten feedback from players like those that you mentioned is that I think we do a great job. And I learned some of this from Coach Linder and some of this from Randy Ray at Weber State. He ran it very similar. And obviously, he had Joel Ballenboy that got drafted. He had Damian Lillard. But really the organizing how you teach the players their individual film. We do so much with film, and I think that's a real secret for us, where it's not just me and my 10 clips I show the whole team. Well, 8 of those 10 clips might not pertain to player A, B, or C. So really being organized on position coaches and using film. I think film is one of the greatest teachers, especially with kids being visual learners these days. And so I think we do a really good job of that. It would be my opinion on that one.
Right. So you mentioned the portal. You lost 2 guys there in the past 2 years, Dalton and then Saint this year. And I must say, I've been following this, since 2017, closely. And I don't think I've ever seen a year where the big schools so thoroughly poached the mid majors.
Yeah.
Did you see that this year, and are you concerned about that trend?
I just think it's the new way it's going to go, and I think it'll be even worse when the TV revenue money comes in 25, 26. I mean, that's going to be this type of situation on steroids, and it's just the reality. And what's crazy is, like, if you look at our league and you look at like the amount of all league guys that are back, I mean, it's 7%, 10%. Therefore, saying 90% of the guys are gone. But I think it happened the last 2 years. I don't think that's going to change.
I don't think it was as bad last. I
don't
think it was as bad last year. I mean, look at your conference. Your conference had 3 pro prospects. I mean, serious pro prospects.
Yeah.
You had 4 teams that were really contending teams. This year, the conference looks a lot different.
It does. Absolutely. And I just think it's more the anomaly, like in our small world, like, getting guys like Jaron really was an all-league guy, getting Jaron to stay. Brock Wisney, who's, 6'8", 240 and has 2 years to go and averaged double figures, and will probably be a preseason all-league guy, and getting him to stay because, behind the scenes, those guys could probably make a lot of money. So it's not so much that, you lost Saint and, DeJour transferred and, DeJour's back home in New York. He was a great player for us. He's a great kid, but, chance to go back home and play in front of his family and his people. I get it. And so, I think that it's more so when you get kids to stay, it's getting harder and harder, but I think you just got to do the best job you can and not take it personal when they leave, and just, reload it up, rebuild it up.
I think the one hope is, I'm seeing, I forget who I was just looking at, one of the players, one of the best players in conference last year. And I forget which team, who it was, but he went to Indiana. He was a big, not on your team. Anyway, and I'm thinking he was a big and he's going to Indiana, and I know Indiana's roster. They're already stacked with bigs.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing, kid?
Yeah.
You're not going to play. Why would you go to Indiana to, maybe get 10 minutes a night? I think I think some of the reality, maybe some kids just want to sit on the bench and collect a check. I don't know. I hope not. But I think maybe those kids who really are serious about being pros and love the game are going to start saying, hey, I'm not going to go to Indiana to sit on the bench all night. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone stays or leaves for various reasons, right? Some players really might want to bet on themselves too. And I think like even our league or even our school perspective, Dalton going and doing what he did, while that may be an anomaly, it also provides motivation for other kids to say, look, man, that kid wasn't even first team all league and now he's with the Lakers. Like I could do it too. Um, the reality is most will not be able to do it. Dalton earned all of that. He had a phenomenal year, but his story is very rare, I think. And
Oh
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
do think you look at players and say, well, I mean, look what Dalton did. So like, I could do it too. He wasn't the player of the year in the league. And I just think, you better be, every kid better be careful and better do things for whatever their reasoning is and whatever their priorities are. But you will see situations like that where kids go to, high major schools and make a lot of money per se, but they might not play. That I mean that already happens. But they got to be, you just got to make the decision. Hopefully, doing it for the right reasons.
Right, right. Um, so this year, more than 3,000, I'm going to repeat that number, more than 3,000 players were in the portal between Division One, Division Two. That's not even counting the JUCOs. That's not even counting freshmen, incoming freshmen. And if you
Right.
have to reload fast, which it sounds like you did, it sounds like you lost more than half your team. With that said, how does it work, especially in a school like Northern Colorado, where you don't have the resources of a Duke? So, for example, let's say you need a rim protector, a lead guard, and a knockdown shooter at the wing. How do you know where to start since you have like four different sources of players and international too? That would be a fifth source. And how do you do the searching and who does the searching? How does that all work? How do you fill out your roster?
Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, we went a different direction. We took a bunch of young kids, and a couple of those kids have turned into really good players for us, like Langston Reynolds and Brock Wisney. But we probably overdid it. That was the year Dalton's team when he was a junior, and Matt and Dalen were seniors. That was our one down year. And again, I don't blame anybody on that, but I do think that we had some really good young players, but they were young, and our team was kind of a roller coaster. So going into last year, we were like, hey, no young kids, at least not initially. We're going to build this around transfers. That's like the Saint, DeJour, Jaron, really those guys. And we had a good year after bringing a bunch of old guys in. Now we pretty much, for the most part, replicated that this year. We did take a couple young guys, but yeah, you got your high school kids, and for us, we at least still regionally try to look at things within, Colorado in this region. We know that area the best of any area just because it's home for us. I'm from here and things like that, but then you look at junior college, same thing, like the junior college regions out here, like Region 9 and things like that. International is probably, for us, and we do have some international because those are built off of connections more so than like going overseas a ton because we just don't have the budget to do it. And then the portal is the portal. The portal, it's still, when you look at it, a lot of the kids we got out of the portal were based off of some type of connection to at least get a phone call or a Zoom in. And then what the key is since time is of the essence in the spring for those kids and money is of the essence too, like it can get really expensive. We try to really do a good job of, popping a couple of Zooms in first, trying to really understand what's the interest level of the kid before we go all the way to the visit. When we get a kid on a visit, we like to think that we're legitimately one of 3 schools that could get the kid, not one of 13. I don't like my odds on that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, what do you do? I mean, that's why you have a great staff and the entire staff now can do some recruiting activity. So that helps out. So I got a great staff that's really connected. And we just try to really stay organized and knowing what's going on. And also too, like the biggest recruiting is with your current players. And so what happens is
Right.
we try to tell the kids, look, like let's have an honest, man-to-man kind of conversation when the year's over and no fluff, no like, dodging. Do you think you're coming back or not? And if you're not, I'm gonna give you a hug and say thanks for your time. But the worst thing that can happen is kind of those shadow games where you think player A, B, or C is coming back, and then 38 days later it's you hear from your compliance officer they just went to the portal because you're building things around that player coming
Right.
back, and when you get blindsided, which does happen, it makes it a lot harder. But when you kind of know who's coming back, a lot of guys go in the portal too because they want a better opportunity to play. We had a bunch of good players last year that just didn't quite make the roster, didn't quite make that 8-man, maybe they're guy 9, 10, 11, and guys that got in the portal from a situation and they're back in Division I schools. They're good players. But so having that conversation with that kid as soon as the season's over, you know what they want to do, a spot's freed up, you can do your job. And so I think having those conversations is really important.
Right, right. So let's move on to this year's squad. And you probably not going to like this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who is this year's version of Dalton or Saint?
Yeah, that's I knew when you built that list up, like, okay, what's in that? I don't know. I look at it this way, and we have 3.5 starters back. Obviously on paper, Jaron really, who's an all-league player last year, no pun intended, he's really good. I think he's gonna be a lot better this year. He was injured for our first maybe 6, 7 games last year with a pretty severe elbow injury. And, we threw him into the second game down in Cancun. He hadn't practiced in a month. He was finally clear. Like, well, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And we threw him in against a really good Radford team. He started. He was awesome. But, he's the guy that, his mentality is he wants to be the player of the year in the league. That's not outside the realm of possibilities. And then you got a guy like Brock Wisney that look what he's already done already. And that's in his first 2 years. He's going to be better this year as he expands his game. Could be a guy like Langston Reynolds, where our last 2 games here, he was our best player. Our upset loss against Idaho State in the Big Sky tournament, and then in the CBI, Saint de jour Riley Abercrombie did not make that trip, and Langston played 35 minutes. He was our best player in that game. So you look at all those guys, and that's not to discount Zach Block, who started almost every game, was phenomenal, is a huge glue guy for us. But then transfer-wise, we've got a couple transfers that really, you look at some of the things Isaiah Hawthorne did on good San Francisco teams in the WCC, the production he had against Gonzaga teams. I think he had a 25-point game at Arizona State. Like, he is a talented player. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's Tayshad Jackson, who averaged a double-double, which not many players in the country did. He averaged a double-double at VMI last year as a sophomore. So a huge pickup for us. Quinn Danker, who was, I believe, the leading or second leading scorer at Idaho last year in his junior year. So I think for us, it might not be so heavy loaded towards one guy. I mean, it kind of happened like that when Dalen Kuntz averaged 22 points a game or whatever. But that team was built around 6 guys that were professional players. Matt Johnson, Dalen Kuntz, Dalton Connect, Bodie Hume, Coor John Cooch, Drew Cookstown. We had 6 guys that were clearly really good players, and they're all in the pros now. And so it might be more like that where it's our depth. I believe we're going to play 9 guys this year. And those roster spots are still being battled out, but it might be different guys who are leading scorers on every night. So it's hard to answer your question because it's not clear. It would have been clear a year ago that we already knew by this point that St. Thomas was going to be a very productive player for us in the summertime. It's like, man, that guy's really good. We're going to have to figure this out. This year's summer, it's more like we have a ton of depth. We can play small, big, this, that, whatever. And so it's just really exciting. So I don't know to answer your question, Rich, but I do know that we got a bunch of good players, and it wouldn't surprise me if we have multiple guys that could be all league guys.
Okay. We're previewing the conference this week along with some other mid-majors, and we were supposed to pick a winner, on the show, which is coming up. You'll be a part of that show. And I'm having difficulty really seeing any one team stand out. Last year, Eastern Washington and Weber, on paper, to me in the preseason, it came down to those 2 teams. But ironically, all right, it was basically a 4-team race last year. Those 2 squads, your team and Montana, who both finished tied for second. And
Right.
then ironically, or I don't know what you want to call it, maybe not ironically, but Montana State, who's 5th in the conference, 9-9 in conference, they're the ones that go to the March Madness.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is really preseason prognostications really don't mean crap.
Right.
But I mean, would you say this conference is more wide open than usual?
Yeah. Well, just in our little world, 2 years ago, we were picked second preseason. We finished tied for 7th and got the 8th seed. And then last year, I mean, who knows? We might have been picked dead last. I don't know. And we finished second. And I thought it's just a couple more. Now, we had a couple things go our way to get to there too. But if we had Eastern Washington a couple times in their games, especially at their place, if a couple more things flipped our way, we might have really contended for the championship in the regular season. So But then you go to the tournament, and Montana State, who had a nice team,
Mhm.
they lost some close ones, won some close ones to get to that 9-9. But yeah, usually you don't project the fifth place team to win it when the top four have way better records. But that's March Madness, baby. So, I don't know. I mean, this year I think it's even more hard to predict because there's even less obvious, really good returning players. So I think it's hard for anyone to predict what it is. But I'm curious to see where it all shakes out for sure.
Yeah, I am. I'm curious, when the preseason voting comes out, who I bet you there's going to be like all kinds of picks for player
Yep.
of the year and, the conference winner. All right, I'm
Yep.
going to ask you one more question, then I'll let you go. I've been somewhat out of the administrative news loop since my surgery in May. So I wondered has there been any more significant discussions on splitting up March Madness between the mid-majors and maybe six or so of the biggest conferences? And what are your thoughts on that, on having two March Madnesses?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's always rumors. I don't think there's anything substantial in that world yet. My opinion and my hope is that it does not happen. I want to be lumped in there with everybody. I think that's what makes our sport so cool is that, even in football, you got FBS, FCS, and I think it's just two different worlds, and that's fine. But, for us, it's like, hey, you're D1 and you can get to March Madness, and not only can you get there, but you can beat some of those teams. And to watch, I just think when you get to it, obviously the highlight of our sport is March Madness, and it's when everyone watches for those 2-3 weeks, and guarantee there's going to be some crazy upsets, some 215s and some 116s, and so not only can you get there, but you can win there. And I think that's what makes it so cool is that, man, for us, in the mid-major level, if they took that away, it really would be like, FBS, FCS football, I think. And I would just rather be competing at the highest level if you can get to that tournament, as opposed to winning a national championship that is not the highest level Division I championship. Obviously, at our level, it's beyond hard to win a national championship. I get it, but still, just that chance to get on TNT or whatever, whoever's carrying March Madness at that point in time, and to go toe to toe with Kansas, Arizona, whoever it is, and to get a chance to win that thing, to win one of those games, and to shock the world. You see what it does for schools like ours with applications and admissions, and it just changes everything. But it's because of the exposure and the opportunity. And I just think that would be a bad thing to see those two split. I mean, if that was on the table and the other thing on the table was just add a few more high majors into it, I'd rather say just expand the tournament. But I just hope that it never gets split because I think it's something really special and it's something that I think everyone loves.
Yeah. Everyone on our staff wholeheartedly agrees with you, and every mid-major coach I've talked to agrees with you. And, it's quite simple. You take the mid-majors out, you take away the magic,
Yeah,
and it becomes like a professional league, it's just wouldn't be good.
I agree.
Coach, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to wish you and the team the best this season. And please come back and visit us sometime soon.
Anytime, man. Just keep me posted. I'm always here. So good catching up. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah. Maybe if you guys play your tournament a week ahead of most other schools again this year.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the same structure.
All right. So if you make March Madness, maybe you could come on then and in the week off, the week before the
Right.
tournament.
Right. Hey, whatever works.
That's your motivation. I
It is.
gotta get to March Madness so I can be on Hoops Prospects
Yep.
podcast.
That is the number one goal now. It's moved above all other goals. It's to get back to the HP. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach.
All right. All right. We'll see you. Thank you.
All right. Today's special guest is junior wing Quion Williams from Abilene Christian in the Western Athletic Conference, or the WAC. Quion played his first 2 seasons at Oklahoma State. Last season as a sophomore for the Cowboys, he averaged 7.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.2 assists per game while shooting 48% from the field. Welcome to the show, Quion. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's an early morning. Besides that, everything okay.
All right. How's your summer been? Have you done anything special?
So I wouldn't say it's been special, but I say I kind of like took a step back because I had got like a little high sprain on my right ankle.
Ah,
So we had 2 summer sessions. So we had June and July. The end of June and basically whole month of July until we left, I was kind of out until an ankle injury. So that was kind of sad. Besides that, my summer been going good.
all right. Did you go anywhere or have any, like go on a trip or?
So I ain't going on a trip, but I got family in Texas and Dallas, and I got family in Arkansas. So I just visited a couple family in Texas. Then I came to Arkansas to see my parents and mom.
Okay, cool, cool. You turned 19. If I have your birthday correct, you turned 19 just a few months ago. And I have to say, you are one of the youngest juniors that I can remember. You're younger than a lot of freshmen coming in. How
You
did
wanna know
that
what's crazy?
how'd that happen?
It was an era. It was an era. I don't know how it was an era, but it had me labeled at like I was going to college at like 16. So my freshman year, people was asking me was I 16 or 17. I'm 18. So I just turned 21 actually. But it was an era on ESPN where I'm 2 years younger than what I am.
Okay. All right. Okay. That makes sense because I was like, man, I looked at it today and I didn't realize it. I'm like, how the heck? A 19-year-old junior? All
People
right.
be asking me that all the time. It be going over my head. I be like, where do y'all see that from? And then I actually went back and seen it like 2 weeks ago that ESPN got me as I was born, I think it said 2005 or 6, one of the two.
Yeah. 2005. That's what I had April of 2005. So is it April 2003?
It's actually July 29th, 2003.
Oh, so they got nothing right.
Nothing right. I don't know what's wrong.
All right. In terms of your play style, I would describe you as a physical, athletic, energetic wing who is at his best when attacking the rim on offense and excels as an on-ball defender. How close am I?
I say spot on. But this year we're gonna I say I won't say stop getting down here more, but like expand the game more. So last 2 years I was using my athleticism to get down here a lot. I need to start doing the middies, floaters, just expanding my game a little more. But besides that, you on point.
So one thing that stands out about your game is when you dunk, you dunk. And I want to know, what did the rim ever do to you?
The rim, I ain't gonna lie. My 7th grade year, the rim did not like me. I could dunk, but like I only could dunk off alley. It don't matter how high I get or how perfect the lob was. I would miss it if I wasn't throwing if I was throwing the alley. Like it'll go in and out, do everything, all that. So I just started kind of dunking aggressively, like towards my 9th grade year, because it'll go out if I dunk soft. So
Right,
it's just a process that just led on and led on. So I
right.
just think from starting off dunking and missing it so many times, from not being able to get up there, it's just get to the rim aggressive then.
So I assume you get a lot of comments about your dunks. I mean, some of them are
Um,
pretty spectacular.
I don't really I get a lot of comments on the dunks, but it be like what I'm gonna do after the dunks. Like they be looking forward to a flex or a yell or something like that.
Okay.
That's shocking though. Most people want to see the dunk, but last year some people wanted to see the reaction of the dunk.
Right, right. I get it. So you came to Oklahoma State as a 4-star recruit. You made huge strides in your sophomore season. Unfortunately, the Cowboys were a very young team and arguably the best conference in basketball. You guys finished 12-20. And personally, at the end of the season, I was surprised that Coach Mike Boynton was fired. You think about all the talent you guys had on the floor, young, but all kinds of potential. So the future looked bright. And you also had, when I look at the situation, Coach was handicapped by the FBI scandal, which he had nothing to do with, but they penalized the team from postseason one year. They withheld scholarships for 3 years. Having said all that, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what went down.
So I can't speak on what I didn't experience. So I'm going to speak on Coach Mike getting fired first experience. Well, because I was there. So it was just like speculations that he would get fired because the season was having. But like once we started seeing other coaches get fired in the middle of the season, and then Coach Mike stayed with us as a player, I thought that since he brought in so many young guys and we had so much young talent, that like that was going to allow him to um get bring us together another year. That's what I thought from the player experience. But so going on to the scandal, I feel like they threw Coach Mike into a fire. His first year head coaching job, he coming in from a scandal. He can't recruit as hard because the scandal. So I just feel like it was 50-50. Because Mike came in into a and then the adversity he faced. So besides that, I don't have anything else to speak on the scandal situation.
Right. Of course. Yeah, I just felt bad for Coach, to be honest. And some of the, you had like 4 and 5 star guys coming in, plus yourself as 4-star guy. And I just thought the team, once you guys had time to gel, the future was going to be bright. But I don't make the decisions. All right. So in last season's opener, the Cowboys lost to none other than Abilene Christian. So when you put your name in the portal, did you have the Wildcats on your mind? And were they one of the first teams to reach out to you?
That was part of it. I'm gonna put it like this. It was some teams that had reached out to me, and then Abilene Christian came in. But when Abilene came in, they came in hard. So I felt like they wanted me from the jump. And then when I took my visit there, it felt like home. So I just put them in one of them. I put them as in one of my schools that I was going to go to. So at the end, when I came down to make a decision, me and my uncle, we decided Abilene was the best choice because I feel like Coach Tenner was allowing me to be myself. Like they had an Aladiba last year. Aladiba couldn't shoot, but they used his athleticism and advantages for him to make the game easier for him. I feel like I can shoot better than Aladiba, but I feel like we got the same kind of concept of the game. We both downhill drivers. So I feel like from experience in playing Coach Tanner, I feel like he can put me in a position to win more without forcing me to shoot the ball as much.
Right. And Aladiba was your leading scorer from last year. I think over.
And he didn't shoot the ball as well. So I just feel like from my experience, I feel like that's the best place for me to go.
Okay. Is there what do you especially like about the school and the program? I mean, now that you're there.
Okay, I really like how all sports are equal there. So like at Oklahoma State, since we were so bad, but since we didn't have a winning record, the fans didn't come support us how we needed it. But football, regardless, win, lose, or draw, they sold out. So I just feel like the most thing that stood out to me was they equal throughout the sports. Like it's no favoritism.
Right. Yeah. When I think of Oklahoma State basketball, I think of Eddie Sutton, which is probably long before you were born. Coach, I didn't even know Coach Sutton, he may have passed. So that's how long ago it was.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? Actually, one of his sons is on staff with us. Scott Sutton. Yeah, Coach Scott Sutton, he was on staff with us. So throughout my first 2 years, I heard a lot about him. And then we would do like alumni weekends and stuff. So when the other players and stuff come back, they would just give us more information about him. So throughout my 2 years, I pretty much know who he is without never meeting him.
Yeah, one of the greatest college coaches of all time, in my opinion. So in terms of your game, and I know you touched on this before, in terms of your game, your role, what do you expect to be different from last season at Abilene? Yeah, I mean, for example, do you expect to maybe you're very good in the post. You don't do it a lot, but you're very good in the post. Do you expect to handle in the pick and roll more? Things like that. What do you think is going to be different this season?
I'd say a little bit more ball handling. I feel like that's where I need to step up more because I feel like last year I played like majority off the ball. So some games when I played on the ball, we excelled more. In some games where I didn't, we didn't. So I just feel like just playing more on the ball because I can guard. I can guard the four. So if somebody come out and guard me, I think I can have a mismatch because of my height and my athleticism. So I
And
just feel like just
and your strength. Your strength.
yeah,
You're solid, man. You're built solid.
just a little
Um,
bit more ball handling. That's it.
yeah, that's what I would like to see, especially in the pick and roll, because you have. I think you could be a real good pick and roll ball handler myself. But all right. So last season, the Wildcats had a disappointing season as well. They were 16-18, and of the top 8 guys in minutes played, the only guys that are coming back are guards Hunter Jack Madden, Nasir DeGray, and forward Leonard Batoli.
Uh-huh.
So you mentioned they lost their leading scorer. They lost their leading rebounder. They lost their leading assist man. So beside yourself, who's going to replace that production?
Well, I wouldn't really say replace that production because we got. I won't say they're the same type of caliber, but they have different games. So like, with Ali Diba going away, I feel like I could step in and take his place. We also have Leonardo, that's who you're saying, and then Hunter Jack, and then Nas. They are 3 coming back. So that's a game for us because they was one of the 3 key players who played majority of the minutes. So with them being there, they can show us the ins and outs of the offense, and also with the reading and rebounders and stuff like that, leaving as a group, we have to key in on that. We got to take notice that they don't have the 6'10" Aiden there anymore. So we have to box out more, rebound more, just do the small things, knowing that we not as tall as everybody else in the WAC.
Right. Of the newcomers on the team, I know you weren't there last year, so it's probably hard for you to compare and contrast. But of the newcomers, the freshmen and the transfers, is there anyone who stood out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple people who stood out to me. First I'm gonna say is a freshman named Christian Alton from Bartlett, Tennessee. He stood out to me because I feel like he just kept his composure throughout the summer, like regardless if he had a bad day or a great day. He never let it affect the next day. He came in, he worked, and I feel like he's gonna play a big part on us. And then we have another guy who came in from a D2 in Brooklyn. His name Rich. Rich says he made an impact on me because he's a leader. Like regardless, he's a leader. He's always vocal on pickup. Even if we just in the locker room, he cleaning up in the locker room. He telling us the do's and don't. Well, he letting the freshmen know because we had 2 incoming freshmen. So he just being the big leader that like we need stepping in, coming in from a D2. So I say them 2 stood out the most towards me.
Okay. In the WAC, I know this is a new conference for you, but the Grand Canyon has become a powerhouse in that conference. They've gone to the NCAA tournament in 3 of the last 4 seasons, and they look pretty loaded again. Do you guys think ahead to them? It's a 1-bid conference, most likely. So you got to get past them. I mean, do they stick in your head, or do you just take one day at a time?
I don't mean to cut you out, but I had a little lag in between. So what team did you say?
Grand Canyon.
Okay. So with that being said, I heard everything else. I would say we just gotta look at it as another game because I feel like every team in the WAC is evenly on the same level. So at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to who wanted more and who doing the X's and O's better.
Right. I can't wait till you match up with Tyon Grant Foster. I think he's reigning player of the year. Yeah, he's reigning player of the year on the conference. We had him on the show last year. It's going to be a great matchup to watch you 2 go at each other. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm always looking forward to a matchup that can better myself. So I'm looking forward to.
We've been talking all about basketball. So let's before I let you go, I want to know things about you as a person. So, what are some of the things you're outside of basketball that interest you, and could you tell me something that maybe most people don't know about you?
Everybody think I play the games. I hate games. I hate that game. I hate games.
You are the first. I don't know. Since we've been doing the show, I probably interviewed over 100 players. You are the first player to ever say that.
I don't play. This is how much I play games. I have a PS4.
Okay.
I have one game where it's Call of Duty. I had downloaded it when I was at Oklahoma State because we had a couple freshmen since I was sophomore. I was relating to them more. So they used to always tell me, play with them, play with them, play with them. But I was so horrible, I would just literally run around with 0 kills. So I'm a real big movie watcher. So like I got Netflix, Prime Video, Tubi, all that. I'm a real big movie guy. I don't like horror movies. I like kind of like action and drama. So
Okay.
I'm really big on movies. So throughout my private time when I'm free from basketball and stuff, the first thing I do is cut on a movie.
Okay.
It don't matter if it's a TV show or a movie. If I
Yeah,
see the trailer in it,
what are some of your favorites?
so I actually like Power. I like BMF. You ever heard of Get Away with Murder? How to Get Away with Murder?
No, but this sounds familiar.
It's a good movie. It's about a teacher who, well, it's a TV show. It's about 8 seasons. It's about a teacher who got like 10 kids into her law class, but she basically teaches them how to get away with murder as like the whole course. But they actually murdering people, getting away. That's what's crazy. And then
Right.
I like Blacklist. I like Designated Survivor, just movies like that and stuff.
Right. Right now I'm watching The Patriot on that's on Amazon.
I watched The Patriot. Well, I watched the trailer of The Patriot. I got like a account where I only follow movies account, so I see the good movies that come up. I seen The Patriot trailer. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's funny.
I hope you enjoy
It's a
it.
series, 2 seasons. I don't know if there's going to be more than 2 seasons. I'm in season 2, but it's funny. You know, it's about a spy and he goes around killing people, but he doesn't want to kill people, but he has to. And it's just funny, you know.
Funny
Um,
movies.
yeah. All right. So is there something else that nobody knows about you that, like, you know, like maybe you know, like, I don't know, some people say like I play the flute or something like that, you know?
I'm gonna tell you this. Most people don't believe this, but I didn't play high school basketball. I played probably like 20 games in 3 years.
No way.
Yeah, so I played probably like I didn't play no AAU. I played 1 year at AAU, and I played like 25 games of basketball my whole 3 years on AAU. That's shocking.
How did you get a 4-star rating?
I actually just had I actually had a outstanding summer, like an outstanding summer.
Nice. And you played at a local high school in Arkansas, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't
so
wasn't one
my
of these
sophomore
special
year,
prep schools.
my sophomore year we didn't play at all. I didn't play at all because I transferred to Texas, and then my junior year I had to sit out half of the year. So I only played conference, and then we lost early in conference, so it was like 13 games, 14 games. And then in my junior year, I finished the year. Then going into my senior year, I transferred back to Arkansas because I wanted to finish my year in Arkansas. I just wanted to finish where I started at.
Right.
And so once I did that, I still had to sit out half of the year, but I had to sit out a full year because once you transfer your senior year, since it's your last year, they say you don't have to sit out a full year. You only can do half. So we won state. So I never lost a game. So I only played like 25, 26 games, but I never lost a game in Jonesboro High School.
Nice.
So I ain't had that many games, but I ain't had that many losses either.
Right.
But besides that, I feel like that's what people don't know about me.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. I mean, I noticed that you didn't go to one of those fancy prep schools, but yeah. All right. So
Yeah, I had a chance too, but I feel like public schools was the thing for me because
yeah.
private school was all about basketball. As a kid, I was really indecisive, so I didn't know if I wanted to go to college for basketball for real, because I didn't know if it was for me, because I ain't really like playing it outside of pickup.
Right. Well, Quion, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I wish you and the team the best. I'm looking forward to watching you this season, and please come back and visit us again.
Yes, sir. Just give me a call. I will.
Our third and final special guest this week is High Point junior forward Kimani Hamilton, a former four-star recruit who began his career at Mississippi State. Last year, Kimani helped the Panthers win 27 games in the regular season title in the Big South, a first-team All-Big South selection. He averaged 14.9 points and 7.2 rebounds per game while shooting 47% from the floor. In terms of metrics, he ranked in the top 5 of the conference for offensive rating, player efficiency rating, win shares, and plus minus. Welcome to the show, Kimani. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day. We've had some beautiful weather. Summer's starting to wane, so it's not so brutally hot. So are you in North Carolina?
Yes, sir. I'm down here right now.
Alrighty. So how was your summer? Did you do anything special?
I really wouldn't say special, but I feel like I really just been, just working and, staying at the crib, staying out the way, for real.
Did you go home?
Yes, sir. I had went home for like 2.5 weeks.
Okay. Alrighty. Good. One of the guys on our staff asked me what High Point was, and I laughed because everyone knows it's on top of Mount Everest. Really, truly, the school is located in central North Carolina. You're in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Appalachian Mountains, and both Greensboro and Winston-Salem are, about 20 minutes away?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Greensboro, like 15 minutes.
All right. So I've never been, but I've been told it's quite the beautiful campus, and the location seems to be ideal for doing all kinds of different things. I mean, in the summer you can go to the beach, in the winter you can go to the mountains and go skiing. So what's it like at High Point?
I'll say it's very different, and like it's a beautiful school. Like it's crazy. Like when you see it, it don't even look real. So it's just it's a wonderful place to be at, and I'm just thankful for it.
Right. So you grew up in Mississippi, and you and your father, I believe, are the only father-son tandem to ever be Player of the Year in the state. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what I think they said.
Yeah. And so you started at Starkville, where your father also played, but you didn't play a lot as a freshman. So did that play into your decision in Mississippi State, or leave Mississippi State, or were there other things that led to you going to High Point?
Yes, sir. I would really say that was just the main factor and why I really left. Like, that just wanted to, state just probably wanted the place for me, like at the time. So, I just had to find somewhere who was, somebody or coach who was gonna, let me play and be me, and rock out.
Right. What was your father? Was your father okay with that?
Oh yeah, he understood. It was business. Just had to make that move.
Right. So in the middle of last season, the Panthers strung together 12 straight wins, but down the stretch, team went 5-4 in the conference, and then you were upset by Longwood in the conference tourney, which cost you the NCAA bid. What did you and the team learn from that experience?
I would say just, the game is never over until it's over. Like when you up, we was up like 15 with I think like 12 minutes left in the game, and we let them come down and rain down 3 threes. That's just something you can't give up when you up like that. Like at least force the 2, because as you know, threes they can hurt. People start hitting.
Yeah. And, I've talked to, we've been talking to a lot of guys lately from one bid conferences, and most of them were in a situation like you, where you were the best team in the conference, but you still had to win your conference tourney to get in. They weren't going to let you in unless you did that. And I got to think that's a lot of pressure.
I wouldn't say pressure. That's just what it is. That's what life is. Sometimes it ain't fair, but you really can't worry about it not being fair. Just go do what you need to do.
Right, right. That's a good way to look at it. When I looked over your stats from last season, it actually was surprising to me that you were third on the team in scoring. You averaged 15 points per game, and you were still only third. 4 guys averaged in double figures. And in terms of minutes, if I have this right, 6 of your top 7 return, and 2 key players, point guard Bobby Pettiford and forward Terry Anderson, were added in the portal. So the one key piece that you'll be missing from last season is Duke Miles, your point guard. But still, I think there's a possibility the team might be better this year. What do you think?
For sure. Like, we have definitely, added some more pieces and players that can, really go in, and they're also going to play defense. So we should see a whole better defense end for sure this year from High Point.
Right. That's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because, I would think with all these returning guys, how well you guys did last season. Drew Pember's no longer at Asheville, so he's not going to be a pain. I would think that you guys have to be the clear favorite. I mean, Longwood's in that discussion, but I still think you guys are the favorite. But the one thing I see missing from the squad, I mean, you have size, you have shooting, I don't think offense is going to be the problem, but defensively, you guys were toward the bottom nationally in defensive efficiency. So what do you see being different this year? How can you improve on the defensive end?
I would say the first thing we have did is started working on defense way more in practices. So I feel like we'll be, more prepared to play anything we want to.
Okay. I mean, are you saying that, are you talking about assignments, or are you talking about mixing up zone and man, or?
I'll say, a little bit of everything,
Okay. I mean, you guys were, one of the best teams probably in the country offensively. What's coach's coaching style? How would you describe it, both offensively and defensively?
I'll say he don't really give me no problem. So, I mean, I would say it's like he be really laid back. Like, when he do got to get on you now, like, you feel, he will, but if you doing everything right and you playing hard, I mean, he really not gonna say too much to you. Like, he just gonna let you, be you out there,
But
and correct you when you're wrong.
But in terms of X and O's, do you think he's more offensive minded, more defensive minded?
I feel like last year he's probably had more offensive minded, but I feel like his mindset is going to both ends of the floor now.
Right.
Even more.
To take that next step. You have a very versatile game, and offensively last season you were used in nearly any way you could think of. Pick and roll, pick and pop, handle in the pick and roll, cutting, post ups, ISO, you name it, you did it. So do you expect that to be the same this year, or is your role going to change or expand?
I mean, I mean, of course, I'm get stuff, but I mean, it's just basketball at the end of the day. Like, you just hooping, so I'm gonna be out there hooping. That's all I can really say. Like, of course, I'm play and went throughout our system though, but it's just basketball at the end of the day. Like,
right. No, but I mean, I'm saying, has coach said to you, this year I need you, we're going to use you this way, we're going to use you more in the post, or we're going to use...
They have their, sets and stuff for me, if that's what you're saying.
Right. Okay. But you think it's going to be similar to last year?
I mean, it's a new year, so you always got to grow on more. So I wouldn't say the same.
Okay. From what I could see, you're often asked to defend at the point of attack. Is that something you enjoy, and do you think that's going to stay the same this season?
Well, I feel like you can always get better at something, so that's why I would say I won't stay the same.
Okay, but I mean, do you enjoy defending like all different positions? Guys that are quote unquote smaller and could theoretically would be quicker and faster, but you usually end up on those guys. Is that something you enjoy?
Yes, sir. I love it. They call me Mr. 95 feet.
Yeah. And if you played in Europe, it would be Mr. 93 feet.
No, I think a court only like 94 though.
No, I think of FIBA it's 2 feet shorter. I think.
I'm talking about like regular college courts. I think they 94.
Right. Yeah. They're all. Yes, you're right. Mm-hmm. So let's see. What do you consider your biggest strength as a player?
I would say first on the defensive end. Yeah, I say on the defensive end, really, because like that's what I really like pride myself in for real, like with making sure like my man is not scoring and like making sure my man ain't scoring and stopping my man first and all that and helping my teammates also too, like when I'm off ball. But I really say defense because the way I can move my feet, like at my height, like I wouldn't say like I really, had too many problems with not being able to move my feet with anybody, So that's what I'm blessed about. The feet that God gave me. I feel I have great feet. I say guard feet, but they're size 15.
And you're 6'8". What are you, about 220?
Yes, sir. 220.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular you worked on, this summer where you'd like to improve this season?
I'll for sure say being a more consistent shooter.
Right. That would definitely round out your game and make you really difficult to stop.
Oh, yes, sir.
So Terry Anderson, he's about your size, and I think his skill set is similar. Have you and Terry got to meet and play, and has practice started at all? Or
Oh yeah, Terry. That's that. He gonna be a real dog for real. See Terry out there with me, Us two out there terrorizing people.
Right. Gives you a lot more size, more defensive potential, I think. That's why I'm excited about this year's squad. I mean, Pettiford too. He's necessary, and of course, he has experience at Kansas and other. Where else did he play? I forget. Kansas and East Carolina. Carolina. Yeah. So he's got a lot of high level experience at distributing. So I like the way, this team looks.
Mm-hmm.
So lastly, Kimani, what do you like off the floor? What are some of your interests outside of hoops? Yeah.
I mean, I really just say just chilling at the house.
Right.
I don't really go out like that no more. Like, just really, if I ain't in the gym somewhere, somewhere chilling or playing the game, that type of stuff.
Right. And you could tell you're a Mississippi guy because You just can. Mississippi guys are always like relaxed, laid back, polite. And so as soon as I heard you talk, I was like, yep, he's definitely from Mississippi. All right, Kimani. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I wish you and the team the best this season. I don't mean to put pressure on you, but I really have high expectations. I expect the team to do well. And please come back and visit us in the future.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed those 3 interviews. As I said at the top, we will be back in a few days to start our conference previews. We'll be doing them over through September and October, and we'll be having guests from the conferences that we're previewing. So we may not always split them out. We may just throw them in the episode. This happened this opening week. We had a lot of interviews. So as always, I want to thank our listeners, and I want to thank all 3 of our special guests. If you ever miss an episode, you can get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. Also, if you'd like to send us an email for our mailbag, please email it to admin, that's ADMIN at hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter at hoopsprospects, on Instagram at the Hoops Prospects, and on Facebook at Hoops Pros. So thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you soon with some conference previews.